All right. Good afternoon, folks. How are you guys doing so far? Thank you. Should we try that again? How's everyone doing this afternoon? Thank you. All right, welcome to SARM's annual convention hosted in the city of Regina. I welcome everyone who traveled. I know the weather might have been a little sketchy driving on those highways in some parts of the province, so hopefully, and I am assuming many of you did make it here safely, so thank you again for joining us. My name is Sabine Ahmed. In the notes here it says, jokingly I know, to share my resume. If I did that, we'd be here for days. So I will just tell you some of my current roles that I'm very proud of, and that is I am the Weather and Community host with CTV Regina, and I'm also part of one half of the dynamic game day hosts for the Grey Cup winning Saskatchewan Roughriders. So I would like to begin by acknowledging that SARM's Regina office is situated on Treaty 4 territory, the traditional lands of and gathering place of the Cree, Dakota, Nakota, Lakota, Saulteaux, and the homeland of the Métis Nation. We make this acknowledgement as an act of reconciliation and declaration of our commitment to respect and honor the long and vibrant history of Indigenous peoples. We hope this recognition will also inspire the members we represent to do the same, so that we can show what is possible when partners work together in the spirit of reconciliation. If you turn ever so slightly in your seats, to my right, your left, you will notice our board, and I'd like to give them a big welcome as they enter the convention.
Lay back and smell the sun, warm up the Georgia pie. It's so good to be taking it easy. Why would I ever leave? 'Cause I know I got some good friends that live down the street. Got a good-looking woman with her arms around me. We're in a small town where it feels like home. I got everything I need.
All right, thank you so much and welcome to our board. In a moment, I will ask you to rise for the entrance of the platform party, followed by Her Honor, the Honorable Bernadette McIntyre, Lieutenant Governor of Saskatchewan, and His Honor, Rich McIntyre. Now, I do want to make mention, immediately following the entrance, please remain standing for the Vice-Regal salute. The salute includes portions of God Save the King and O Canada. And also just note that the salute is played, not sung. Following the Vice-Regal salute, I will ask you to join in the singing of the national anthem. Again, please note the salute is just played and is not sung. Please rise if you are able and remove your headwear. Please remain standing as Britton McGonigal will sing our national anthem. Britton.
O Canada, our home and name. land. True patriot love in all of us command. With glowing hearts we see the rise, the true north strong and free. From far and wide, O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God keep our land glorious and free. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
Thank you, Britton. Please remain standing as we take a brief pause in our agenda to recognize those members who have served us in the past. As a special mention of our past SARM Division Director and President who passed, Sinclair Harrison, from the RM of Moosomin, please take a moment. Thank you. You may all be seated. So as we move through our program, it is my pleasure to introduce our SARM board. As I say your name, please stand and give a wave. Beginning with President Bill Huber, RM of Tullymet, number 216, and RM of Lipton, number 217. Vice President Darren Steinley, RM of Excelsior, number 166. Division 1 Director Bob Moulding, RM of Abernathy, number 186. Division 2 Director Cody Jordison, RM of Lumsden, number 189. Division 3 Director Sean Kramer, RM of Maple Creek, number 111. Division 4 Director Myron Kopik, RM of Buchanan, number 304. Division 5 Director Blair Cummins, RM of Blucher, number 343. Division 6 Director Randy Omak, RM of Meeting Lake, number 466. Ex officio Director Sheila Kiesig, RM of Tullymet, number 216. And Executive Director Laurel Felton. I would also like to acknowledge and thank fraternal guests for attending the convention here in Regina this year as well. I think you guys can take a seat. I have a laundry list of things to talk about. Yeah, I think so. Yeah. All right, so a number of important announcements to get through. Everything will be located on the screens as well as I go through them. Just some friendly reminders of what you need to know for the next couple of days. So emergency exits are located in the front and back of our facility. Name badges must be worn at all times when at the venue. Security will be monitoring. If you have any personal items, please do not leave them in the convention hall overnight. It will be cleaned and personal items may not be there when you return. Lunch, if you purchased on-site lunch when you registered, there will be a sticker on your name badge. And for those of you with tickets, lunch will be served each day in the ITC foyer while seating is in this room at the time shown on the agenda. So today it was till 1:30, tomorrow 11:30 until 1 p.m. And just a note, no outside food is allowed to be brought in. Check out the free web-based SARM convention app available through your mobile internet browsers. Simply visit app.sarm.ca to access helpful resources that will enhance your experience as an attendee at SARM's convention. The SARM Challenge will be happening again this year as well. If you visit the SARM Challenge page on our convention app, you will find a brief trivia quiz that can be completed during the convention. All participants who answer all of the questions correctly will be entered into a draw to win one of 3 prizes, and winners will be announced at the end of the convention. And thank you to Nelson Granite for sponsoring the SARM Challenge. And while we're talking about technology, please follow SARM on social media channels. So at @SARM_voice on Twitter or X, at sarm.ca on Blue Sky, SARM Voice on Facebook, or at SARM-Voice on LinkedIn for the day-to-day happenings within the association. And during the convention, we will be live posting. So if you are tweeting or posting on social media, please use the hashtag SARMAnnual2026 on all platforms. And a big thanks to MLT Aikens for sponsoring the convention's social media feed. Also, please be sure to visit the trade show area. This year, the show features 173 exhibitors, and the trade show runs until 5 p.m. today and tomorrow from 8 a.m. until 3 p.m. And there are some draws with the trade show, so names of the winners of the trade show draws will be posted on draw boards in the trade show area by 12 p.m. tomorrow. Prizes can be picked up by taking your trade show winner's card directly to the exhibitor from which you won. You will also notice sponsor slides on the screens during breaks, as well as in our convention guide and app. We just want to say a big thank you and let you all know that we appreciate their generous support. Without them, the convention would not be possible. Important voting instructions. Each RM is allowed 2 voting delegates who were designated when registered and given voting devices at the registration desk. The electronic voting devices will be used to vote on the resolutions and elections. The resolution session will be held on Wednesday and the elections will be held on Thursday. So please keep the devices until the very end of the convention and be sure not to lose the device and remember to bring it with you each day of this convention. A charge will be applied to any device that is not returned, and you will be given further instructions on voting and test the devices tomorrow prior to the resolution session. Pursuant to the SARM bylaws, the deadline for nominations for the SARM President, Vice President, and Division Directors was 5 p.m. on February 12th, 2026, and this date is 28 days prior to the date of the election. I would like to congratulate the following SARM board members who were acclaimed for the next 2 years. Bob Moulding, Division 1 Director. Sean Kramer, Division 3 Director. And Blair Cummins, Division 5 Director. So congratulations to you. And tomorrow morning, we do have a networking breakfast. Please join us for that breakfast. Our friends at Calcium Incorporated, Cortec, Triple S Transport, Green Earth Road Spraying, MG30.ca, and Ward Chemicals put on a delicious breakfast for free, so you can join us from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. on Thursday for that breakfast. Also, a quick reminder for the Stars 50/50. Those 50/50 tickets will be selling throughout this convention and with all proceeds going to Stars. So tickets are 1 for $5 or 4 for $10, and they're available for purchase at the registration table in the foyer. Your ticket must be in the room when we make the draw to win, and that draw will take place Thursday morning at 9:45 before the Stars presentation. We'll also be drawing for the bitter end raffle draw at 9:45 a.m. on Thursday morning. Each delegate who had the QR code on their name badge scanned when they arrived will be entered to win. A draw will be made for 2 Regina-based staycation prizes worth $1,000 each, and for prize details, see the convention app. You must be in the room when we make the draw to win, and a big thank you to Tourism Regina for sponsoring the raffle prizes. Whew. Okay, now let the fun begin here. It's always special when the Lieutenant Governor can join us at the convention. More so, she can share in recognizing a reeve, administrator, or councillor who has served in our province. As I invite our Lieutenant Governor to the stage, I'll take a brief moment to introduce her. Lieutenant Governor Bernadette McIntyre was installed as Saskatchewan's 24th Lieutenant Governor on January 31st, 2025. Ms. McIntyre holds degrees from the University of Regina in Economics and Business Administration. She was the Chief Executive Officer at Wascana Centre Authority and held senior management positions with Saskatchewan Government Insurance, and immediately before her appointment, she was a principal in Scoreco Consulting and was interim executive director at Regina's Globe Theatre. She has received numerous awards in recognition of her service, including the Saskatchewan Centennial Medal and the Queen Elizabeth II Platinum Jubilee Medal, the King Charles III Coronation Medal, the University of Regina Distinguished Alumnus Award, Curling Canada's Award Achievement, the Scotties Joan Mead Builders Award, the Fred Heel Memorial Award, and the Lifetime Achievement Award from Tourism Saskatchewan, and Sport Tourism Canada's Volunteer of the Year Award. In 2023, she was inducted into the Saskatchewan Sports Hall of Fame as a builder. Please join me in welcoming Her Honor, the Honorable Bernadette McIntyre.
Thank you, Sabine. And I didn't do all that at the same time, just for the record. Convention delegates, distinguished guests, friends, good afternoon, bonjour, tonsei. My husband Rich and I are very pleased to join you for the opening ceremonies of the 2026 SARM Annual Convention and Trade Show here in Regina, in Treaty 4 territory and homeland of the Métis. As our Sovereign's representative in Saskatchewan, it is my privilege and pleasure to bring greetings to everyone in attendance on behalf of His Majesty King Charles III, King of Canada. I'm grateful to the Board of Directors and staff of the Saskatchewan Association of Rural Municipalities for once again hosting this important convention and for managing the annual Lieutenant Governor's Award. I'd also like to take this opportunity to acknowledge the leadership provided to our province's rural municipalities by SARM and all the reeves, councillors, and administrators. For as long as Saskatchewan has been a province, SARM has been an active advocate for municipalities. Having grown up in Bethune, where my parents farmed, and as a current farmland owner in the RM of Dufferin, I have great appreciation for the association's valuable and ongoing work. Today, I especially wish to recognize the selection committee for managing the prestigious award I am about to present. Now, I have the privilege of presenting the 2026 Lieutenant Governor's Award for Outstanding Service to Rural Saskatchewan. Each year, the award is presented to an exceptional reeve, councillor, or administrator. The 2026 award goes to an individual who exemplifies excellence in community service. I'd like to tell you a little bit about him before I present the award. Born in Prince Albert, Douglas Panter has devoted his life to service. Raised in Big River, Doug built a deep and lasting connection to the land and the community he would later serve with remarkable dedication. After completing his diploma from the University of Saskatchewan's School of Agriculture, he settled east of Big River on the family farm. And there he found his lovely wife, Kathy, and together they raised a family that now spans 3 generations, 6 children, 13 grandchildren, and 3 great-grandchildren. Doug's contributions to the rural municipality of Big River, number 555, span more than 4 decades. First elected in 1985 as Division I councillor, he went on to serve as Reeve, Deputy Reeve, and councillor, providing steady leadership marked by fairness, respect, and collaboration. His ability to bring people together has been instrumental in strengthening relationships between the RM, the town of Big River, and regional partners. Among his most significant achievements is his role in creating the joint fire agreement between the RM and the town of Big River, an initiative that transformed emergency service delivery and stands as a model of rural cooperation. Doug has also served as Emergency Measures Operations Coordinator, a leader within the Big River and District Fire Department, and a faithful member of Big River Search and Rescue, contributing more than 30 years of volunteer emergency response service. His participation extends far beyond elected office. Doug has served on numerous regional boards and committees, including recreation, cultural development, landfill operations, watershed advisory, mutual aid, and health service planning. For 20 years, he has been president of the Ladder Valley Community Center, supporting rural quality of life at the grassroots level. He told me he was very proud of that accomplishment. Doug's exemplary service has earned multiple provincial and national honors, including the Fire Services Exemplary Service Medal, Saskatchewan Protective Services Medal, Queen Elizabeth II Diamond and Platinum Jubilee Medals, and commendations for his decades of commitment to search and rescue. Through leadership, humility, and steadfast dedication, Douglas Planter has left the RM of Big River stronger, safer, and more united. His service embodies the absolute best of rural Saskatchewan, making him a most worthy recipient of the Lieutenant Governor's Award for Outstanding Service to Rural Saskatchewan. Now, it is my pleasure to invite Douglas Planter to come forward to receive the Lieutenant Governor's Award for Outstanding Service to Rural Saskatchewan. Congratulations, Doug.
Good afternoon. I am standing here this afternoon very honored and humble and must share my gratitude to Lieutenant Governor Bernadette McIntyre and her husband Rich McIntyre for the presentation of this award. I'm here as only one person chosen amongst other desired recipients and must say thank you to the SARM board, the board of directors, the selection committee, to my council for nominating me, and to each and every one of you that are here today and what you do for rural Saskatchewan. For just about 40 years, serving as a rural municipal councillor, or REEV, has provided me with opportunity to work alongside several very dedicated councillors, REEVs, administrators, and committee members. Together we have worked towards bettering our community for our neighbours, our friends, and our families. And we aren't just voting on policies. You see the results at the rink, on the roads, the resort developments. Where I started in Big River at the RM, we had 4 subdivisions. Now we have 24. This was a great learning experience with lots of ongoing challenges. When starting council in 1985, I started working for Weyerhaeuser at the sawmill in Big River. As I worked my way through numerous jobs and traveled for the company, I also ran a 120 cattle operation and still managed to attend all the meetings through the RM, a job I really dedicated myself to. Throughout my experience of different boards in the community, I have seen many changes in different areas. I've had the opportunity to attend a week-long seminar traveling to Alaska to witness the healthcare system and to bring back ideas. Community volunteer work feels less like a role and more like a responsibility. In our small community, you don't ask who will do it, you ask how can I help. I've always believed that strong communities are built by people who step forward without needing recognition. I'm proud to be an active member of the Big River and District Volunteer Fire Department and proud to have shared this passion with my children and 4 of my grandchildren. When the call comes through, they are off and running. Our fire department is successful from both the town and the RM councils working together to improve our communities. For example, we are awaiting the arrival of our brand new fire truck, which will arrive on Friday this week. Our community recently fundraised for our new fire rescue side-by-side that is equipped for wildland fighter and patient rescue from remote areas. And it was all basically from the community, and it was in the tune of $70,000. Beyond the backing of this organization and a strong council, there is one more area of support that deserves a special thank you. That is my office manager, my secretary, my wife, Kathy, of 53 years, who keeps me on track with meeting dates and tasks that I need to complete. All 6 of my children, Amanda, Lynn, Clint, Alicia, Becky, and Megan, and numerous grandchildren are here today to help celebrate this special occasion, along with my whole council and previous administration. I'm just about done. A month ago, I was dealt with a curveball, facing a rather severe heart attack. I have to say that I was treated with the utmost professionalism in a timely manner by our healthcare system. As I'm recovering, I'm still a little bit slower. I owe a big thank you to my family, standing beside me, supporting me, encouraging me along the way. It's not easy for the old fella to let somebody else do the work. In closing, I would like to once again share my appreciation for being nominated, for being chosen, and for being celebrated. When I look back over my years as a councillor in this small rural town, I don't measure it by titles or years. I measure it by the people, the moments, and the success of our community. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and congratulations again, Douglas. At this time, I would like to introduce the Mayor of Regina, Chad Bashinsky. Elected as Mayor of Regina in 2024, Chad is focused on building a strong, vibrant future for the city, one where residents feel proud to call Regina home. His priorities include investing in strategic infrastructure, improving processes, ensuring transparency, and addressing public safety and houselessness. He believes Regina has incredible strengths and opportunities, and he encourages residents to be more bold about all of the great things our city has to offer. Chad believes that our city's strength lie in its people and our ability to come together and create lasting positive change. Please join me in welcoming Mayor Chad Bashinsky.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of my City Council colleagues in the City of Regina, I am thrilled to welcome you all to our great city for the annual SARM Convention. Thank you for being here today, and I know many of you had to make the trip from out of town to get here, and I very much appreciate that you made the trip down to Regina. I'd like to acknowledge a few folks here today. Obviously, Her Honor, the Honorable Bernadette McIntyre, thank you for being here. The Honorable Buckley Belanger, Secretary of State for Rural Development. The Honorable Eric Schmaltz, Minister of Government Relations. Rebecca Bly, President of the Federation of Canadian Municipalities. Darren Steinley, Vice President of SARM. Bill Huber, President of SARM. And many other dignitaries that we have. I see many at the tables here, MLAs. Thank you all for being here today. It means a lot to have you here in this room. The City of Regina is proud to host the 2026 Saskatchewan Association of Rural Municipalities Annual Convention and Trade Show, as it is an important opportunity for rural municipalities to get together, to converse, and to learn about relevant issues within your communities. Here in Regina, we value our rural municipalities and communities and proudly recognize the impact and success that you provide. Rural municipalities form the backbone of this province. Across Saskatchewan, rural municipalities and communities support agriculture, natural resource development, transportation networks, and local businesses that help drive our provincial economy. And at the same time, you're responsible for maintaining infrastructure, supporting residents, and ensuring your communities remain strong places to live and work. The work you do matters not just locally, but across the entire province. You play a critical role in shaping Saskatchewan. And as Mayor of Regina, I will say that our cities thrive because of the strength of the communities surrounding them. Collectively, we share some of the same challenges and goals within our communities, and any opportunity for collaboration and to learn from one another is always welcomed by myself and highly encouraged. I want to thank the Saskatchewan Association of Rural Municipalities for the invitation and for the work that you do to bring leaders from across the province together to share ideas, discuss challenges, and strengthen rural Saskatchewan. Thank you for your leadership that you provide in your municipalities and for the dedication that you bring to your communities every day. And if you have some free time outside of the conference, I encourage you to check out what our city has to offer. Consider visiting the largest T-Rex in the world at the Saskatchewan Museum or our renowned RCMP Heritage Center. And if I may also suggest, go check out our recently renovated, if you want to call it that, that's an understatement, replacing pipes from 100 years ago. Everything from underground infrastructure to the roadway to the streetscape, it's all been renewed. So if you check it out, lots of local shops, breweries, great place to check it out. It's quite the sight. There's several local shops and restaurants across the city that I encourage you to check out. And I really wish you a productive convention filled with meaningful conversations and a successful number of days together. So to anyone that's traveled here, please have a safe journey home. Thank you for having me, and enjoy the rest of the conference.
Thank you so much, Mayor Bashinsky. As we continue on throughout this afternoon, it is now my pleasure to introduce Eric Schmaltz, Minister of Government Relations. Eric was elected as the MLA for Saskatchewan Rivers in the 2024 general election. He currently serves as the Minister of Government Relations, Minister of Immigration and Career Training, Minister responsible for First Nations, Métis and Northern Affairs, and Minister responsible for the Provincial Capital Commission. Before entering politics, Eric served 14 years as a member of the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. In 2017, he joined his family's business and obtained training as an auctioneer. And in 2019, Eric was elected Reeve for the RM of Prince Albert in a by-election and subsequently re-elected in the fall of 2020. Please join me in welcoming Eric.
Thanks, Will. Appreciate it. They conveniently put, please do not adjust the mics up here for me, I think. While my list of accomplishments don't nearly come close to Your Excellency's Lieutenant Governor, it's a pleasure to be here today with all of you. A lot of familiar faces, friendly faces from both my time as Reeve of the Arm of Prince Albert as well as my time elected as a representative of the provincial government. I look forward to attending the SARM convention every year, again, previously as Reeve and now as Minister of Government Relations. I always enjoy the opportunity to see familiar faces, meet new municipal leaders. I have appreciated the conversations I've had so far with many of you in the dialogue sessions and outside the dialogue sessions. I look forward to more dialogue over the next couple days. Each of you play a key role as you listen to ratepayers, local businesses, farmers, ranchers, and neighbors to stay informed about local issues. All of us in this room know it's in those conversations that tell us what matters in our communities. It's all of these discussions, whether they be in the RM office or over a Bluetooth in the truck, that connect us with the community of individuals we represent. These relationships matter. And we all know that cultivating strong partnerships is critical to the success at all levels of government. Like we all learn in grade school, listening is key to building and maintaining strong relationships. It's true for our kids, and it's true for our government. That's why this provincial government continues to be committed to listening to you. We were listening last fall during discussions on amendments to our municipal acts when you voiced your priorities around these changes. This government will keep listening to maintain our strong partnership with each of your communities. Another early life lesson is that keeping promises is critical to sustaining relationships. Well, our government is keeping its promise on delivering municipal revenue sharing. I am pleased to announce today that for 2026-2027, the government of Saskatchewan is returning a record-breaking municipal revenue sharing amount of $392.4 million in revenue sharing this year. That's an increase of $30,700,000 over last year. These funds are unconditional and distributed to Saskatchewan communities to spend on your unique priorities. That's no strings attached funding. Unfettered funds that you can spend, whether it's on infrastructure, operations, or initiatives within your communities. As local leaders living and working alongside the citizens in your municipalities, you know how best to invest these dollars to meet the needs of your communities. Since 2007, the government of Saskatchewan has supported municipalities by providing nearly $5 billion in unconditional grants through municipal revenue sharing. As any elected official knows, we are facing challenging times with increasing costs and growing infrastructure pressures. Despite these challenges, the government of Saskatchewan remains committed to protecting the interests of our municipal partners. This is the message that we took to Ottawa last fall as a united front with SARM, SUMA, and municipal leaders from across Saskatchewan. We engaged with the federal government to impress upon them the importance of infrastructure investment for nation-building projects. The feedback we heard from the federal government was clear. When we spoke with one voice, with a common purpose, our message carries more weight. Saskatchewan can and does punch above its weight on the national and global stage, especially when we work together. For example, look at the recent work of our Premier, traveling to China and India to ensure that Saskatchewan producers are getting a fair deal on their canola, beef, pulses, and more. Partnerships between our levels of government is how we are going to navigate these uncertain times. This government understands the pressures municipalities face. This is especially true for small urban municipalities and RMs that are facing decreased populations impacting their ability to provide services to their citizens. I want to thank your leaders here at SARM and their colleagues at SUMA for sitting down with us and talking about what can be done to assist communities who are faced with sustainability issues. A sustainability working group has been struck with the Ministry of Government Relations, SARM, and SUMA representation to ensure both rural and urban voices are heard. Together, I anticipate helping communities to maintain their independence and where that is not possible, create a path for transition that is fair and reasonable. As part of today's revenue sharing announcement, you will see that $1.5 million will now be available to the Communities in Transition Fund, doubling the amount available. The Communities in Transition Fund is available to help communities and their neighbors overcome financial barriers when they recognize the need to merge with another municipality to secure long-term sustainability for their residents. Our government wants to see the municipal sector succeed. That's why the fund has built-in flexibility to meet a range of needs. It will expand eligibility to make all types of municipalities able to apply, and those accessing the fund will have a dedicated staff support from the ministry. We are confident that these enhancements will help us support a greater number of much-needed projects during the period of transition. The Targeted Sector Support Initiative will continue with an allocation of $1.5 million per fiscal year to support projects that strengthen municipalities' core operational capabilities through increased regional cooperation. Projects under this program improve cooperation between municipalities in their municipal service delivery, as well as strengthening governance and administrative capacity. By working together, we protect our communities from ongoing challenges, continuing to ensure Saskatchewan is the best place in Canada to live, work, and raise a family. I want to take a moment again to express my sincere gratitude to the SARM board and their administration, as well as SUMA, who's here represented by President Randy Golden and CEO Jean-Marc Nadeau, for their sincere approach to creating a dialogue between the organizations so that municipalities can work together. It is something we need in this province and will continue to work on going forward. I look forward to the rest of today and tomorrow and to hearing from you on how this government can continue to support your communities. Thank you again for inviting me to speak. Please enjoy the rest of your convention.
Thank you so much. I'm now going to ask you in just a second to direct your attention to the screens for a greeting that's shared from the federal government. Please welcome Buckley Belanger.
Bonjour tout le monde, and hello to all the delegates, councillors, administrators, and partners gathered for the Saskatchewan Association of Rural Municipalities Annual Convention. I'm Buckley Belanger, Canada's Secretary of State for Rural Development, and I want to thank you, especially Bill, for the invitation to join you, and more importantly, to thank you for the work you do every day. Next time, I hope I'll be joining you in person. Rural communities are where a lot of the real work of nation building happens. You're the ones keeping the roads open, water flowing, infrastructure working, and communities moving forward. You're problem solvers and champions for the people you serve. That work matters, not just locally, but nationally. Rural Saskatchewan helps feed the country and power the economy. From agriculture to resource development to energy and innovation, your communities are a cornerstone of both Saskatchewan and Canada's prosperity. I want you to know that you have a partner in the federal government in me. And I know many of you submitted valuable input on what we can do to support you in our Rural Development Action Plan written consultations. This is so important. I like to say that progress in rural Canada moves at the speed of trust. That trust is built through respect and steady partnership across all orders of government. Thank you again for your leadership and your commitment to rural Saskatchewan. I hope you have a productive and positive convention, and all the best as I look forward to continuing our work together.
All right, thank you for that message. Rebecca Bly joins us from the Federation of Canadian Municipalities. She is a two-term councillor in the City of Vancouver, president of the Federation of the Canadian Municipalities, and a director of Metro Vancouver Regional District. She's worked passionately on policy discussions related to the poisoned drug crisis, climate, community safety initiatives, and much more. Significant investments in housing in all communities across Canada as well. She brings her passion for governance and has supported the FCM board since 2018 through transformative work to modernize and improve board effectiveness. Please join me in welcoming Rebecca.
Hello, everybody. Bonjour, good afternoon. On behalf of FCM, I'd like to extend a big thank you to SARM President Bill Huber for inviting me to address the convention today. I was kindly invited to SARM's annual convention in Saskatoon last year, and so flying in actually this morning on an early flight on a bright bluebird day, I can honestly say I really felt heartened to see those grain elevators as a reminder of coming into land, and I know that when that happens, like last year, I am here to connect with so many excellent and dedicated municipal leaders here on the ground in Saskatchewan. I also want to mention just really quickly, because I was chatting with Darren and I was remembering last year in Saskatoon, the first time we sat down and we talked with Bill and Bob and Darren, and it actually was a moment in my term as president that really stuck out to me, because we were having a conversation about collaboration and how important it is to show up at every table we can to advocate for the folks that we serve as municipal leaders. And it was Darren that said to me, well, you know, if you're not at the table, you're on the menu. And you may have heard this before, and Darren has passed on credit where credit's due to the person who said it to him, but I can tell you I took that right through this last year of my presidency. And really advocating on behalf of all municipalities, all cities and communities of all sizes, rural and big cities, to advocate for the necessary investment in municipalities, remembering Darren's words, if you're not at the table, you're on the menu. And I can tell you that we've done a lot of work this year to make sure that we have been at the table advocating for the issues that you all care about in your communities. And I will say, you may have heard that being quoted by even other politicians along the way, and I'll give credit to your very own VP here of SARM for inspiring a lot of that work over the last 12 months. So thank you very much on that, Darren. So, and on that note, I would like to recognize our Saskatchewan-based FCM board members. Of course, Bill Huber, Sarah McInnes, Gerald Elbers, who was with us in St. John's last week. I haven't seen him yet. Zach Jeffries, and of course, SUMA President Randy Golden. And all represent and ensure that Saskatchewan's priorities remain front and center in FCM's national advocacy. And this year's SARM convention really comes at a time when the world, our country, and our communities are going through an intense period of change and real uncertainty. It seems like there's a constant stream of new concerns and important developments competing for our attention. However, it's in times like these that our collective voice can cut through the noise and focus on what really matters. We have a choice to meet this moment together, and local governments are doing just that. Municipalities are stepping up to strengthen Canada's economic resilience, to support our national defense, and keep our international trade moving. Every product, every resource that moves through this country depends on municipal roads, infrastructure, and services. The farms, mines, and businesses that span Saskatchewan and contribute to our national prosperity rely so heavily on municipal water, bridges, roads, transit, and so much more. And it's municipalities that keep Canada open for business every single day. With that firmly in mind, in our recent conversations with federal ministers, including Minister Belanger, we've been crystal clear on the priorities that matter most, including renewing aging municipal infrastructure, strengthening economic resilience where we need it most, including in our vital rural regions, preparing for disasters and wildfires, a priority felt acutely here in Saskatchewan, and protecting public safety in every one of our communities. And these priorities are vital because as municipalities step up to the plate for our national economic prosperity, we're being asked to carry an increasingly heavy load. Movement on these needs and the priorities of rural Saskatchewan remain at the core of our advocacy. And that said, we are making sure to build on and follow through on recent wins, like the federal bail reform, and on the drawdown of Chinese tariffs on canola. And on that, our SCM board meeting in St. John's just last week passed a resolution recommending compensatory payments for those affected by canola tariffs. We're also prepared to advocate on emerging issues like the closure of vital agriculture research centers, which our Saskatchewan-based board members have brought forward. And there is still more work ahead, and we continue to push on those issues. And as I said, these are troubled times when the strength of municipal unity really matters. But when our members speak with one voice, it cuts through the noise. Our municipalities are a powerful force, and the contributions and perspectives of our Saskatchewan members remain vital to that. And that is a reason our upcoming annual conference, which will be held, set for Edmonton in early June, is entitled Building the Future Together. It's because we've never had such a responsibility and an opportunity to tackle these issues, to seize the future, and to build prosperous, peaceful, and resilient communities. I hope you'll join me in meeting this moment together, along with our colleagues from across the country at our conference this June. We have a great selection of rural-focused plenaries, workshops, and study tours that have been planned with your needs firmly in mind. So that wraps it up for me. I'm looking forward to connecting with many of you today, and I wish you an excellent annual conference. Thank you for having me. Merci beaucoup. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Rebecca. I would like to now shortly, I will introduce Vice President of SARM, Darren Steinley, to share a few words. Darren was born, raised, and resides on a farm in the RM of Excelsior. He has been the Division II counselor since 2009. He graduated from the University of Saskatchewan with a diploma in agriculture in 1993. He returned to the family farm in 1999, and along with his wife Michelle and brother Kevin, purchased the farm in 2008. The farm is primarily a beef and hay farm that focuses on crop production for forage rejuvenation. Previous to and while running the farm, Darren has worked in agricultural research for AAFC and the Wheatland Conservation Area. Please join me in welcoming Darren.
That's okay. Okay, Rebecca, we got to set a few things straight before we get going here. Everybody in the room knows that's a John Wagner quote. There he is right there. And John, I don't know if you know this or not, but Prime Minister Carney used that quote in Davos for his speech. So John Wagner from Piapot, Saskatchewan was quoted by our Prime Minister, so congratulations. You might have varying degrees of pride on that, I'm sure, but mixed emotions. But anyways, I guess I should talk about what I came to talk for. I have the distinct pleasure of explaining what the SARM board does and what the SARM staff does for you, the SARM members. So we'll get right into it. Since 1905, SARM has been working to address the concerns of rural municipalities and ensure their voices are heard by the senior levels of government. In compliance with the Act of Incorporation, SARM directly and lawfully engages in activities that advances the interests of agriculture, including the handling of transportation, processing, and the marketing of grain and grain products. We also look after a bunch of other stuff, healthcare, education, and a lot of other things. We have a strong vision. We have a strong vision to be an autonomous municipalities powered by vibrant, diverse powered by vibrant, diverse economies that build a sustainable future for rural Saskatchewan. Our mission, to foster rural development in Saskatchewan and build strong, sustainable communities. We have several core values, 5 of them. We act with integrity and put our members first. This is something past President Ray Orb did an awesome job of, and I thank you for that, Ray, and we hope to carry on that proud tradition, so thank you. We believe we are stronger together and that we are responsible and professional. As President Huber often reminds me, we have over 100 years of goodwill with both the provincial and federal government, and he's not about to lose it on his watch, and I'm not about to lose it either. So whenever we go into meetings with ministers, whether they're provincial or federal, we have their ear, we have their respect, and that's not to do with the current board, that's to do with the past 100 years of generation of SARM board. So we plan on carrying on that tradition, and it's something we take very seriously. I always thought it was the sexy brown jackets, but I guess it's something else. So we are accountable and transparent. We educate and inform. We are leaders, innovators, and solution providers. We have several teams at SARM, and I will go through them quickly. Our first group is advocacy. Look at those happy, smiling faces. These are the people that help us grind the politicians to get what we want for rural Saskatchewan. And we don't grind them, we work with them. And our advocacy team is driven through our resolutions. We're a resolution-based organization, so I know it's 3 o'clock tomorrow. I know you're tired, but these things are important. And I might get shot from other board members and people for saying this, but I'd be happy if we doubled the amount of resolutions and had more things to follow from our greater population. Next, we have strategic communications. So that's Amy and Adam. These two kind of put lipstick on a pig, if I can speak like that. They make Bill, myself, and the rest of the board, they turned, we're threes dressed up as nines now, right? Isn't that how that goes? And that's what these people do for us. And they're also in charge of the the sheaf, the rural dart, and all those great things. Next, we have the Benefits and Insurance Group. This is a great group headed up by Colin. They look after all the insurance for SARM, the Blue Cross, an exciting innovation they've done for us, as well as the Tito machines for those RMs who have chosen to use them. So that's a great thing as well. Next, we have the risk management. This is our legal team, our lawyers. I asked Aiden if he had any good lawyer jokes, and in typical lawyer fashion, he's like, no, and they're pretty serious about their work. But we are blessed to have some of the best lawyers in Saskatchewan working for us. They work tirelessly, and they work for you on a fee-for-service basis. So we're really happy to have this group, and they're awesome to have around. They give us a lot of good support at the board level, and I'm sure a lot of you have worked with them as well. Next, we have program and services, including bridge services and education. So here we have the two bridge boys on the end, as we like to call them. I maybe said this last year when I talked, but they saved RM 166 Excelsior about $750,000 last year. We have a bridge, it's called the Fauna Bridge. It goes over the main CP line, and there's a massive beam torn out in that. CP wanted us to pay for that. These two dug up a contract from 1926 stating they'd have to pay for that. So we're forever in debt to these people. So they do very, very well. Sorry? Works on the co-rate next, yeah. I won't touch that. We also have the education group, service and benefits. Oops, sorry, I went too far here. So the education group, this is a part of SARM that I really see growing in the future. I saw it at the GR presentation this morning, people asking for more education. They do a lot already. We've developed the SEEDS program. Bob and Sean are working on another municipal education program. We really see this as something important at the SARM board level to help the membership. Our roles as counselors and our own RMs are becoming more tricky, more complex, and we need more education. So this is something we're really going to work for. This is out of order all of a sudden. Okay, there we go. We'll go back here, sorry. Member purchasing is Amanda, so she works with Canoe to help you with all your purchases. We have the finance and administration group. This group does a great job. Virtus Group came in and did our audit last meeting. They had 0 adjusting errors, and SARM's a pretty big outfit with a little bit of money, so that's pretty awesome. This group does spot-on work for us. And last but not least is Jen in community planning. Jen does all your community planning needs, your bylaw needs, all those great things. I did skip over programs there as well. Programs is kind of the heartbeat of SARM, so that's Dustin's group. So that's the RIG program we administrate, the Gopher program, the RAP program, and all those great things. So to wrap it all up, we have an awesome staff that we have built, thanks to Laurel, building an awesome team. They're here to work for you. Our board is great to work with. We work well with the staff. We're here to help you. So if you have any concerns, you have any needs, please talk to any board member. We're all ears because we're here to help the members. So thank you, enjoy the convention, and have a great day.
All right, thanks so much, Darren. Next up is Mr. President himself. President of SARM, Bill Huber. Bill's 3 passions in life are people, farming, and rural Saskatchewan. As a proud third-generation farmer, he'll tell you that the land, lifestyle, and work ethic are part of his DNA. Bill and his lovely wife, Jan, have farmed in the Lipton district since 1972, raising purebred livestock and growing cereals and oilseeds. He was first elected to Council of the RM of Lipton in 2011, and in 2016 joined the SARM board. 4 years later, Bill was elected Vice President of SARM and served in that role until 2025, when he was elected President. Please join me in welcoming President Bill Huber.
Well, I'm going to use a different podium here, but I don't know, there's an old saying that says they save the best for the last, but I don't know if that's true today, because I'm following some pretty prestigious guests that we have here today. Minister Schmaltz, Mayor of Regina, Chad Baczynski, His Worship, and several others. I won't name them all, but I got big shoes to fill, and of course our Lieutenant Governor, the Honorable Bernadette McIntyre. It's great to have you here and all the work you do for our province. So thank you, and I'll try and be finished before supper. I'm Bill Huber, and it's once again my privilege to stand with you today. When I started thinking about this address, my instinct was to begin with a long list of the battles we're still fighting and the problems that don't yet have solutions. There's no shortage of those. But the more I thought about it, the more I knew I wanted to start differently. Before we talk about what's still ahead of us, I want to recognize what you've already achieved and the role that SARM has played alongside of you. Because in rural Saskatchewan, we don't pause very often to celebrate what goes right. We're too busy getting the next job done. Our RMs carry the weight of this province on their shoulders. You keep the roads open, ratepayers safe, and the economy moving, often in tough conditions with limited resources and not nearly enough thanks. And SARM exists for one reason: to support you, to carry your voice into the rooms you're not in, to push when it would be easier to stay quiet, to clear paths that individual RMs should never have to walk alone. So before we get into the to-do list, I want to pause on a few files where your collective voices has already been clearly felt. On strychnine reintroduction, for a long time it felt like we were shouting into the wind. Now, thanks to your persistence, there are meaningful conversations happening at both the federal and provincial levels. That shift didn't happen by accident. It happened because rural Saskatchewan refused to drop the issue and kept pushing the importance of strychnine. We've spent years telling Ottawa that rural roads, bridges, and broadband and our nation-building infrastructure. And we're finally seeing some acknowledgement of that in program design. But the dollars, the timelines, and rules still don't match the scale of what you're responsible for, and we're not letting up until they do. We've pushed hard on trade, tariffs, and supply chain reliability, and finally, rural impacts are part of the conversation instead of the afterthought. Even so, too many federal decisions are still made with an urban lens, and we're going to keep forcing them to look at what's actually happening in our farms, our local farms, on our rail lines, and at our borders. On public safety, our message is starting to be heard. Rural communities need protection from repeat offenders and illegal guns, not more red tape for law-abiding firearm owners. We've seen some movement in the right direction, but not nearly enough, and we will keep pressing until the focus is firmly on criminals, not on the people trying to live and work safely in rural Saskatchewan. We have also seen some movement on bail reform, but there is more to be done. None of these are finished stories, far from it. The progress we've seen is partial and often slower than anyone in this room would like, but it is real, and it's proof that rural Saskatchewan speaks with one voice. It moves the needle. Movement that would not have happened without rural Saskatchewan refusing to let these issues drop. Those steps forward belong to you. They came from your resolutions, your concerns, your time on the phone and in meetings, and your refusal to accept. That's just the way it is as an answer. And I want you to know and to hold these wins in mind as we look at the work ahead of us, because every challenge I'm talking about is really a future win waiting to happen. Let's start with infrastructure. You have heard the numbers before. More than 160,000 kilometers of roads RMs manage. Bridges, most of them aging, that are critical for moving grain, fertilizer, fuel, and families. Rural households still withhold reliable cellular service and broadband. Major projects like Lake Diefenbaker irrigation and the Port of Churchill with the power to transform our economy, our communities, and help with food security in our country if we can get them across the finish line. Behind every one of those numbers is a grader operator who's worked through the night, a council member, a council meeting that ran long, and a family that just wants a safe road to town. So this year, just like last year, SARM will be pressing provincial and federal governments to step up, to boost funding for municipal roads and bridges, to expand and improve programs like CTP and RIRG, to fix funding formulas so they reflect the realities of geography and economic output, not just population, to support rural waste management, water and wetland challenges, and broadband connectivity in a way that lets RMs actually do the job they're responsible for. We are committed to making your voice heard right here in our province, as well as nationally. We will have the conversations and make trips to Ottawa, like the one I was part of back in September with the Minister of Government Relations, advocating for an infrastructure program that works for rural Saskatchewan. Bill, right here. Thank you. You've heard these asks from us before, and you'll hear them again. We will keep repeating them until the funding, the formulas, and the timelines match the realities on the ground. Next is agriculture and our supply chain. Everyone in this room knows that agriculture is the lifeblood of rural Saskatchewan. It's also at the heart of Canada's food security and economic strength. But producers are under pressure from drought, from inflation, and crop input costs, from volatile markets, from labor shortages, from uncertainty that wears people down. When a farm struggles, a whole community feels it. That's why in 2026, SARM will be pushing hard for practical support that actually reaches the farm gate. Natural gas, new connection installation costs, stronger risk management programs that respond when producers need them most, like reviewing the eligible expenses for agri-stability. Investment in research and technology that helps producers adapt to drought and changing conditions, like the valuable work that is being done at ag research centers in Indian Head, Lacombe, and Scott. Tools to manage pests and protect crops like strychnine. Soil health rules and supports that are workable on real farms, not just on paper. Training and education measures that help address shortages in key roles, from 1A driver's licenses to veterinarians. Every one of these asks is about protecting the people who feed this province and this country, and about keeping our rural communities alive. Finally, rural health and public safety. We all know this is in our bones. We are nothing without our health, and nothing feels right when our families don't feel safe. For people living in rural Saskatchewan, the worry is multiplied. It's the reality of driving long distances to access care. It's the anxiety of waiting for an ambulance that's coming from far away, or spending hours waiting in emergency rooms. It's the frustration of seeing crime touch homes, touch farmyards and small businesses. That's why SARM will continue to press and meet with the Ministers of Health and Public Safety, urging them to listen to rural Saskatchewan, not as an afterthought, but as a priority. We will keep calling for, number one, stronger RCMP resources and better recruitment and retention in rural areas. Stronger bail and justice reforms that take repeat offenders seriously and protect communities. Real involvement in RMs and policing and emergency planning. Support for rural fire halls, first responders, paramedics, and health professionals, along with mental health support for those on the front lines. Improved rural and remote health services so that where you live does not decide whether you get care. These aren't abstract policy ideas. They're about whether a senior can stay in their community, whether a young family feels safe raising kids on the farm, whether volunteers have the tools they need when a fire breaks out or a storm rolls in. We have a lot of work ahead of us. Yes, lots of it. But nothing about rural Saskatchewan has ever been easy, and nothing about it has ever been hopeless. It is still one of the best places to live, to work, and to raise a family. What gives me confidence is not what's written in briefing notes or budgets. It's the people in this room. It's your resilience, your honesty, your willingness to keep going, even when you're tired of asking for the same thing. SARM is here to make sure you never have to fight those battles alone. We will keep standing beside you at the council table, across from the decision makers, and in every conversation where rural Saskatchewan needs to be heard, with each other and for each other. Others, that's how we've always done it, and that's how we'll keep doing it. On behalf of everyone at SARM, thank you for the privilege of carrying your voice, and thank you all for being here. We appreciate the work you do each and every day. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bill. Now, before we jump up for our quick break, the Honourable Lieutenant Governor needs to leave the room first, so I would like to ask you to please rise for the departure of the Vice-Regal Party. Now enjoy your break. We will resume back here at 3 p.m. sharp. All right, folks. We want to stay on time and on track with this afternoon's presentation. So I'm going to get started as you make your way back to your seats. I hope you did enjoy this afternoon break with your cookies and coffee and are ready to get started with our afternoon session here. At this time, I would like to begin this back half of the day with members of the SARM team who are joining me on stage now for our next discussion. I would like to welcome Daniel Siegel and Alexander Udy.
There we go. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Alexander Udy, and I'm here with Daniel Siegel. We're both SARM Senior Municipal Bridge Engineers, and we're here today to talk to you about our new minimum height bridge rail project that we've done. So to get started here, we're just going to show a little short video. So sorry to cut that off there. We'll loop back to this a little bit later. So just to give a little bit of history on some bridges in Saskatchewan, dating back to about the 60s, bridge rail heights in Saskatchewan have been about 30 inches, and they're between timber and steel. And now we are looking to, we did a project to lower the rail height because we have known that this has been an issue. The bridge rail height has been an issue for a long time. It has impacted producers. Sometimes it's hard to get headers over the height of the rail. So in 2021, SARM's advocation resulted in some funding to review the bridge rail height. We were looking for any new bridge rails that were out there that had already been crash tested that we could look to adopt in Saskatchewan. Unfortunately, we were unable to find anything that could be used for adoption. So we had moved the project into looking for modifying or looking for a crash rail that we could that would be at the minimum height that we could use in Saskatchewan. One of the things we're really hoping to do is to have a fully designed, crash-tested rail that would work in Saskatchewan, which would avoid situations where bridge rails would need to get cut down after the fact, just to ensure the safety of the public. So at the end of our project, we have now resulted in a bridge rail height that is at its lowest height. So on the right here, we've managed to take 3.2 inches off the height of the rail. It is not that much, but it's the lowest that is now allowable in the bridge code and is also crash tested. For this design that we used, we had taken the standard rail that we've been using across the province for 30 or 40 years and have modified it to the lower standard. One of the reasons that we did this is so that any of the existing rails could be modified and retrofit to the new design to use the same materials and not be a big expense if you wanted to upgrade the rail. Again, this is a huge win for ag producers, giving them a little bit additional capacity to use the infrastructure that we already have. So this bridge rail is fully available. You can find some standard drawings for the bridge rail on SARM's website. And this is totally publicly available. We want this to be adopted across the province. So if you're working with bridges, feel free to let any consultants that you may be working with know that this is available, and this is something that they can adopt in their designs for you. If you're using SARM bridge services or you're using any other consultant, feel free to use this rail. So that's kind of it for the bridge rail itself. So because we have some time to talk about the project, we thought we'd show you some pictures and some videos and let you experience a little bit of what this project was all about. So to start here, we ended up working with WSP. They were our consultant, and they had partnered with the University of Nebraska and the Midwest Roadside Safety Facility to do the crash test. Midwest is one of the biggest crash testing facilities in North America. So they're located in Lincoln, Nebraska, and their university is at the bottom right here, with Midwest being at the top right at the airport. We're going to take a little bit of a zoom in. This is their kind of testing facility. Another little zoom in. We're going to look at the test bed where we're at. And this was actually our project in the test bed that you can see in this photo here. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about the bridge rail system itself. It's a bridge rail. You've probably seen them. It looks very similar. Right now, here's a schematic of the rail. And now we'll show a couple pictures of what it looks like in real life. Again, you've probably seen this a lot on your roads. So a couple different angles of that. So this is what we're testing, but how do you test it? You test it by driving some cars into it. So we had two tests prepared. We had a car and a truck. Both of them had a target speed of 70 kilometers an hour at an impact angle of 25 degrees. You can kind of see the car in the next photo here set up to impact the rail. And this was the way that they throw the car into the rail is there's a tow cable out the front of the car with a guide system that's attached to the passenger tire, and between those two things they end up towing the vehicle into the rail. And you can see kind of in the photos here some cones set up behind the car where they would kind of line up the car to come into the rail. So now I'm going to pass it off to Daniel to take us through the actual tests.
Okay, so the first test, they found themselves a 2018 Hyundai Accent, and they impacted the rail at 45.5 miles per hour. Each of the tests will be designated as SARM 1, 2, and 3, which you'll see on the test vehicles. So this is the barrier's first victim. Of note, you can see they paint the tires different colors, and what we get with that is a paint transfer onto the rail so they can see which parts of the vehicle hit the rail at what points. Each vehicle has been stripped down, instrumentation has been added, they put in remote control brakes to stop them after the test. They find the exact center of mass for the car and a whole bunch of other stuff like that to facilitate doing the crash test. So here you can note that guide assembly on the passenger wheel, and there's a red post in front of it where it's going to break away, and you'll also see the cable releasing and flying away from the car as it does that. And if you look closely at the bottom of the windshield, you just saw a flash. So there's a pressure tape switch that they attach on each car so that when it impacts the rail, at that moment of impact, a flash bulb goes off. That allows them to take duration measurements of how long the car is on the rail, as well as synchronizing all their videos. So up in the top left, you can see there's a boom lift. So that's where some of the instrumentation is, like the overhead camera shot that we just saw. And then down in the bottom video, you can see the yellow tow vehicle heading in the opposite direction using that pulley system to keep everyone away from the point of impact. And here's a great angle of the test before we get into the results, with all the debris flying off and hitting the camera. So here's damage to the vehicle. And if we get into the rail, you can see the smudges, the green smudges from the front tire, the yellow smudges from the rear. So the rear tire actually hits downstream from the initial point of impact. And we've got kind of the same mechanisms of damage on all the tests. So we have some of the splices like this that have shifted and could create potential snag points. And then we've got damage to the concrete girders that the barrier is attached to as the impact tries to pull the steel out of the concrete. Also here you can see, because the car kind of enveloped the rail, that we don't just get damage to the front impact face of the rail, we actually get damage on other surfaces as the vehicles envelop the rail or roll over top of it. So here's just kind of a last shot, kind of giving a better extent of the damage resulting to that concrete from the impact. So they reset the tests, we set up new rail, repair the stringers as needed. So we get into the second test, which is with a truck. So they found themselves a 2018 Ram 1500 and they hit the rail at 41.4 miles per hour. So this is a fun part here, is the parameters for the crash test to meet this certain service level. The lowest speed they can hit it at is 41.5 miles per hour. So we had the advantage of paying for 2 crash tests, because that's all we should have needed. And they hit it a tiny bit too slow, so we got a 3rd test for free. Woo! So here's the test vehicle again for the second test. And we'll jump into the video. So with the larger vehicle, we can talk about some stuff, additional stuff here. So you can see the 2 impacts from the front and the back. There's a tail whip. The car had that as well, but it's harder to see with the car because it's just not as heavy. And then with the larger vehicle, you also experience rollover of the rail. So they're also testing for like a zone of intrusion, as it's called, because you don't want the vehicle to go too far through the barrier or over top of the barrier, because potentially there's a pedestrian walkway right on the other side, or maybe a solid concrete wall for a pier parapet, things like that. So again, we'll finish with this nice angle of the camera getting hit by debris flying off the vehicle. So there's a highlighted circle here just showing with the trucks there was something of interest. It happened in both tests that when we had that tail whip impact, it snagged one of those splices that had shifted and actually ripped a hole in both of the trucks at the back of the cab, start of the box. So I've just highlighted it here because you're going to see it again in the next test. Again, all the tests showed great performance of the rail, so there was no failures in any way, but it was just something of note. So because this test wasn't valid, because it wasn't fast enough, we're just going to kind of quickly move through this, and we'll focus on test 3, which is the same test, but they hit the rail much faster than they did in this one. So of note, there'll be a picture coming up. You can see the sheet metal lodged in the rail from where it ripped off the truck from that spot I highlighted earlier. And again, we have the same mechanisms of damage, the concrete damage, the splice is shifting. So here's a really good video of that damage occurring. Because that's a really fun one, we'll just watch it again. So here's kind of a full extent of the damage again as they're resetting for the next test. So test 2 successfully contained and redirected the vehicle. The occupant of the vehicle didn't experience any negative effects that would cause a failure. But again, on paper, it wasn't valid because it was 0.23 kilometers per hour too slow. So as a result, we get into test 3, which did I mention we got for free. So for the specifics of this test, they found the exact same truck, different color. I guess they don't like 2018 Ram 1500s. And now we're within 0.4 miles per hour of the top limit for speed, because at this point, the rail had performed very well, so they'd rather explain why they hit it too hard instead of too slow. So here's the test vehicle again, same setup. We'll get into the videos, and I'll just give you some other tidbits as we go. So the bridge and barrier test setup has a pier and 2 abutments. It's set up as best as we can to mimic real-life conditions. That's also why we fabricated it in Canada and shipped it down there. But we do some stuff to maximize the impact of the impact, like the post spacing is at its largest, so that the rail is at its weakest in that respect kind of thing. So there's stuff like that that we maximize. So some large areas of evaluation that they're checking the structural adequacy of the rail. They're checking risk to the occupant in deceleration, velocity, and also the trajectory of the vehicle after the collision, because you actually want it to ride along the rail like this, as opposed to being thrown across into opposite lanes of traffic. They're also checking for snag at the rigid components like the posts, snag at the splice points like we had that snag, rupture of the splices, strength, lateral deflection, and occupant safety. So again, we've just highlighted that snag of interest there. So again, test 3 was successful. It redirected the vehicle, it contained it, we had good performance. So at this point, we had everything we needed on paper to say this rail is good and it meets this test level 2 that we were testing for. Again, same damage to the concrete, shifting of the splices. We've got some more permanent deformation of the rail. So here of note, I'll highlight like the concrete damage at the post is quite severe now that we've hit it really hard. But there's also this crack away from the rail. So the system is so stiff and robust that when the vehicle hits it, the concrete stringer it's attached to actually rotates and shifts sideways. So the crack you're seeing there is in between where the two units come together, that the surfacing has broken from the impact. So on your gravel roads, you're not going to see it or anything like that, but I figured I'd highlight it here. If you were paving or putting concrete on top, you would see that damage. Probably just speed the compilations here. So all of this is mostly the same, just the severity is worse. And we'll just kind of finish out with some video compilations of the crash tests while I give you some summary points here. So this modified Type 4 steel bridge rail has now been validated through detailed design and full-scale dynamic crash testing. It has been shown to meet all the requirements of the Canadian Highway Bridge Design Code, including successful testing to test level 2. Test level 2 is valid on all RM roads as far as we're concerned because it's valid for every bridge that we currently know of in our RM inventory. So this design provides an effective solution to reducing rail heights on new bridges in the province while maintaining compliance with all the current codes and standards that exist today. So additionally, the system, because it's a modification of the existing system that's in place, it can be installed on most existing precast concrete bridges of this style, either as a new rail or through modifications to lower the rail you already have. Thus, this modified barrier offers significant cost savings and reduced waste in the fact that lots of RMs can go out and modify what they already have and lower their rail to this new standard. So, well, you've seen this slide before, but this is very important. Like SARM's advocacy was instrumental in bringing this from concept to reality, and we're pleased and beyond excited to provide you with a new lower height bridge rail designed with you specifically in mind. It seems like a small thing, those 3 inches, but this has been decades in the works with little interest in doing this. So we're finally now at like the minimum rail height standard that you guys can have, without sacrificing any safety or performance with the rails that you're currently using today. So we'd like to finish out by acknowledging the Rural Integrated Roads for Growth program, which provided funding for this project. We'd also like to acknowledge the contributions of WSP Canada and Midwest Roadside Safety Facility at the University of Nebraska in managing and completing the project with us. The contributions of these partners in delivering this project has resulted in direct benefit to SARM's members, and hopefully through further adoption to the province of Saskatchewan as a whole. So, thank you very much.
All right, thank you so much, Alex and Daniel. I want to make sure Jim is here, right? Jim Bersheed? He's, okay. Oh, there, okay. I'm going to introduce him next. Now, Jim is president of the Hudson Bay Route Association, where he leads advocacy efforts to advance the Hudson Bay Transportation Corridor, including the Hudson Bay Railway and the Port of Churchill, a strategic nation-building infrastructure for Western and Northern Canada. Through leadership roles spanning business, municipal government, and transportation advocacy, Jim focuses on strengthening northern supply chains, improving infrastructure resilience, and advancing long-term economic opportunities for rural and northern communities. Please join me in welcoming Jim.
Thank you, everybody. I would first of all like to thank the folks from SARM for inviting us to present at this event. We're quite excited at the Hudson Bay Road Association. There's been a tremendous amount of work and activity that's gone on related to the port and rail line, and I'm going to share some of those in the next few moments. In the room here, I would like to first of all reach out to some of the people that are part of our team that have played a very significant role over the past period of time as board members, lifetime board members of the Route Association. And without further ado, I'd like to acknowledge George Hawes. George, are you around? George is right over here. Longtime board member of the Route Association. Myron Kopek. Myron. Audrey Tremblay. Audrey's been a longtime member of the Route Association as well. Wayne Bacon, if you're in the room. Eldon Boone, I think Eldon is our past president. Wayne is second vice president. Eldon is up in, I think he's working the trade show booth upstairs. I'd also like to recognize lifetime members Sinclair Harrison and Wayne Banting. They played big roles in the work of our Route Association over the years. Quite proud to have them as part of our team. So I'd like to move along here, and I'd like to begin the conversation with the work that we do at the Route Association, what we do, who we are. We've been around for about 100 years. It's been an advocacy group that was set up to move strategy related to the Port of Churchill, the rail line, and people in northern Canada. And it's been a focus of collaboration, nonpartisan alignments with government to try to move this along to increase the trajectory and the potential of Churchill. And Churchill's gone through some evolutions over the past years. In 2017-18, significant washout. And if you look at the picture in the lower right-hand corner here, that is heavy equipment working right at the port. They did 330,000 cubic meters of ballast, and that ballast was moved out onto the rail line. And along with that, significant amounts of railway ties, hundreds of thousands of railway ties. The asset to the port that delivers product to the port is very durable, it's very resilient, there's been a lot of work done, and quite honestly, we're ready to do some significant business here. So in the strategy that I think is going to roll out in the next period of time, some things have changed recently. And I'm going to talk about geopolitical and economic things, and I think the one that comes first to mind is our president to the south has done some innovative things. Some of it we're not very happy with, some we're quite uncomfortable with, but honestly, some of these are going to present some opportunities. And I think as we move along, there's going to be some opportunities that this port can offer the prairies to move this along and really drive the economy in the prairies. Arctic Gateway Group is the owner and title holder of the rail line and the port. They're an amalgamation of municipalities and First Nations that are the principal holders and drivers of this asset. They're from the northern region, and they're driving the whole push of this asset and the activities that are going on at the port. It's quite delightful to see the movement that they're generating, the media awareness is being created and generated and communicated out to Canada. And the vibe that I sense that's coming back from the work that they're doing is Canada is beginning to realize that there's a very significant asset here. It's underutilized, but now it's coming to a life of its own. With investment that's coming in out of governments across Canada, including Saskatchewan, Manitoba, and the government, the federal government, we're seeing very significant activity here, and I'm very delighted to report on a couple days ago I was in Toronto at the mining show, happened to bump into the Minister of Transportation federally, and he announced $5 billion for railway infrastructure in the southern part of Canada, $5 billion, and $1 billion for Arctic trade corridor enhancement. So there's an opportunity, this was just unveiled a couple days ago. There's an opportunity for us to look at that, to see what fits with the funding model and help empower this port, but also the short lines and the class ones across the prairies. The delivery of product to this port is a network of short lines that feed into the class ones that deliver the product to the port, and without that network, we haven't got the efficient transportation that we need. So the CN Railway feeds into the railway at the Paw, and from there it's the Hudson Bay Railway. They feed 500 miles into the Port of Churchill. The asset that I'm going to show you here, this is some of the renovations that have been done over the past couple of years. This site, if you're a railroader, what you see here, you'd be pretty excited. This is very stable, durable work that's been done. The movement of commodities across this sort of thing is very dependable and very resilient. And this is one spot that I chose to show a picture of, but it gives you an idea what the asset's like and the amount of work that's been done. I'm quite excited to see this done. Along with the development of the asset, the port, there's been significant improvements at the port, a new roof on the grain terminal, structural integrity improvements at the port itself, 2 sheds for moving zinc concentrate have been constructed and utilized at the port. There's quite a number of things, and as customers come to us and they say, can you provide us a shipping solution? We're quite confidently saying, yes, we can do that. We've had mining companies come and they say, we'd love to ship concentrate through your port. We need 12 months of the year service. You can only give us 4 or 5 now. That's a challenge for us. We need to book smelter time to deal with all our product. We need solutions. So the Route Association reached out to the folks in the Government of Canada, the Canadian Coast Guard, and Transport Canada, looking for icebreaker service. We're pleased to report that that service is available. That service is available for 12 months of the year. They're strategizing how to deliver that. But it's also available at no cost as long as we work with certain protocols. So that's something that can transform what's going on at the port. The details of this have to be worked out, but it's quite delightful to go back to a customer and say, yeah, we can look after the concentrate that you're going to generate, and we can get it into an export position for you quite handily. So we're quite excited to see that sort of thing. Now I'm going to move along here to the next item here. And in the picture, this is a ship, and it's a ship unloading fertilizer. That's a bulk unloading mechanism that you might use at a port. And we look to see the Port of Churchill as an opportunity to bring fertilizer in through the port and to really utilize it as perhaps a backhaul, but feeding into the distribution system that's already on the prairies. So instead of them having contracts with other places, we can go straight to the places like Morocco and bring in feedstock for distribution on the prairies. And I think economically we can offer a very effective price to to reduce costs and offer a benefit back to farmers and retailers. The other items on there, LNG, short and long term, I think there's some prospects, and with all the instability in oil and energy markets right now, there's some real opportunity with LNG. We've seen huge success of LNG movements going out of the Port of Prince Rupert, and that's something I think can quite easily be done through the Port of Churchill. Industrial resupply to mining entities throughout the north, I think that's good. But the two-way movement through that port, we need to put facilities in at the port to get this stuff all moving. So it's quite an opportunity. We're excited to see that. And we're also very excited to work with Saskatchewan. We've watched and heard over the last number of years the increase of exports and the work that the Saskatchewan government has been doing in installing marketing agents or trade ambassadors around the world. I think that's a mechanism that if we communicate with them that they can also utilize Churchill as a dependable asset to move commodities in and out, that's also going to drive the business model. So the exports coming out of Saskatchewan, I think, are going to be a big part of it. Saskatchewan, we look to be as one of the biggest customers that's going to be moving commodities through the port. The other thing is, as we move along, the continued expansion of the asset at the terminal, adding structures, buildings, and equipment is very capital intensive. And I think as we deal with the customers that come and speak with us and look for needs and wants, that's changing. But I've been with the organization for some 15 years, trained as an agrologist out of the University of Saskatchewan. And I haven't seen this much activity on this file for probably 10 years. It's quite exciting to report and see, and I know you're seeing much of that in the newspapers. So I'd like to also share here, this is a circle that kind of lays out some of the catchment areas, and this is how, when you look at grain transportation, the green circle would symbolize an area that grain can effectively be transported economically through the port. We understand that there's geopolitical stuff where investment and ownership of assets sometimes determine where grain is moved to. This gives the economics that you can go either direction from the green line towards the Port of Churchill, and that determines your economic viability. The blue line looks to energy products, which might include LNG, dirbit, asphalt grade oil products. That can be pulled into the Port of Churchill as well. So we're developing some opportunities. There's some excitement in the marketplace. Folks are really getting revved up. The key thing here is the Port of Churchill is open, it's durable, it's resilient, and the opportunity is here for Canada to say, okay, we're going to look at Vancouver, we're going to look at Prince Rupert, we have assets all the way through the prairies, but how do we tie in to make this work? So as municipal officials, I'd like to ask that you look within your communities to try to support the short lines, to support the railway network that you have, and to try to move this along that it's going to be focused at getting markets developed and prosperous, and I think we've got some great opportunities. I'd like to show you a couple more slides that's going to give you some global context. This is a live map. You can go on Poseidon and you can see live movements of ships throughout the world. And I put it here to give you an example of what's going on in the Arctic region. I'd like you to look at both Canada, the Hudson's Bay, but I'd like to also have you look at northern Russia. You see kind of a crescent-shaped area. That's the Yamal area of Russia. Enormous amounts of energy and various products are moving out of that area. They've been very successful at driving that business model. They've got 60 icebreakers plus that provide service, and I think there's an opportunity for us to learn from that. Couple more slides here, and I'll be bringing to a close. Zinc concentrate. This is a shipment that went out of the Port of Churchill. Zinc concentrate, remarkable movement. You're going to see much more of that. And a couple more things here. This is what $21 million worth of cranes look like going into the Port of St. John's. Gives you a visual of the types of thing that we need to look at. The big driver here is, this is an example of a port. It's being constructed in South America. And it's a visual of what the world is moving for new ports and new ports development. We've got some room to engage from this, but this is the kind of thing that is a world-class asset. So I think in closing, I'd just like to say thanks for the opportunity to come and present here. The municipalities across the prairies are members of our organization. We've got 100+ municipalities that are part of it, and it's been delightful to work with you, and we hope to continue that relationship. Port of Churchill is open for business. Dry voice here. Thank you.
I know I was told not to touch the microphones. I'm sorry. Okay. Thank you so much, Jim. We're going to continue on with our last presentation of the afternoon, which is more like a conversation. So I would like to invite our moderator, Mary Lynn Charlton, to the stage alongside our SARM Board of Directors for a brief conversation to share amongst one another. Mary Lynn, the stage is yours. Hi.
Hi. How are you?
I'm well. How are you? I'll let you.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. Welcome to our session where you get to hear from the board members. The way this is going to work is each board member is going to have a short presentation. We're going to have a question that I ask them following their presentation, and then we'll move on to the next one. So I'm going to start with Myron Kopek. He is the Division 4 Director.
Okay, thank you very much. So we all know how important agriculture is in Saskatchewan, but it's also very important in Canada. In Canada, agriculture generates $150 billion a year annually. It represents 7 to 8% of Canada's GDP. It creates 1 in 9 jobs, and that translates to over 2.3 million jobs. And if we look at agriculture in Canada, just the canola industry alone generates $40 billion a year. Now, just to put this all into perspective, if we look at the auto industry, and we know this has come up a little bit, the auto industry is only a $16 billion industry annually in Canada. It represents 1 to 2% of Canada's GDP. So that's just a comparison between the auto industry and agriculture. Now, agriculture impacts basically every province, but we know when it comes to agriculture, Saskatchewan is king. And when I think about agriculture, 2 words come to mind that I think we need to talk about: food security and sustainability. So first, if we talk about food security, why is Saskatchewan so important? Well, in Saskatchewan, we have 44% of the arable acres in Canada, right? We show tremendous leadership in terms of export, either exporting or producing lentils, peas, I would say durum wheat, oats, canary seed, flax, mustard, and canola. I mean, that's a lot of crops. That's pretty significant. And so like I say, we're number one in exporting all those different crops. So I think we do a tremendous job feeding the world. The other thing I think we need to talk about is sustainability. Now, this is an important word because we've heard lots about climate change. And, there's been a lot of pressure put on agriculture globally, including Canada and Saskatchewan. And when you look at the data generated by the Institute of Food Security in Saskatoon, the data clearly illustrates that we're the leaders in terms of sustainability. And why is that important? So it reflects on what is your carbon footprint in terms of producing food. And we are leaders. And we're the leaders when you compare us to other prairie provinces, to other countries like the USA, Australia, Western Europe. And so this is something I think we need to be proud of. And this is something we need to do a better job communicating and selling to not only our customers, but I think also to our policymakers in Canada. So I think we are very strong in agriculture. We are the leader in Canada, but it's also clear that Canada plays a very significant role. I believe Canada and Saskatchewan, we do our part in feeding the world, and we do it very sustainably. So in closing, I would just like to say that when we look at SARM, we understand the importance of agriculture, and that's why agriculture is one of our 4 main pillars. So we got agriculture, public safety, healthcare, and infrastructure. So we do a lot of work on agriculture. Thanks.
Myron, just a quick. Hello? Myron, just a quick question to follow up. What do you think the role of SARM is in making sure that governments at all levels understand the importance of agriculture and the contribution to the GDP?
Yeah. Well, I think our role is to lobby, but also educate. So if I pick just one example, I mean, there's lots of things when we talk about agriculture, but again, the sustainability message, it's not really clearly understood even within Canada. And this is something, if you look at Saskatchewan, I don't think our producers are getting rewarded for it. So I think we have we have to seriously lobby, but we have to educate not only our governments, but also our customers.
Okay, great. Thanks very much, Myron. Now I'm going to call on Sean Kramer, who is the Division 3 Director.
Thank you. Welcome, everyone. I decided we'd talk about maybe some of the natural resources in southern Saskatchewan. Helium is being explored a lot in our area now. The field started in the Arama-Reno around Console and has moved now more eastward through Cadillac and that area now moving around Swift Current and north. And our area had a lot of oil and gas at one time through the 80s and the 90s and early in the 2000s, which created an economic kind of boom. And I think we hope that helium will be that kind of boom. I'm not sure it's like that. It will be a steady climb, they say, but it is another industry that is in the Southwest and is there for RMs, hopefully for taxes, and can bring in some more jobs and create that. As the world changes and the need for different resources, I think that's where RMs have to be prepared, that these companies will come in and are looking for different minerals, looking for different resources. And in that, that's where I think SARM can be a leader and be a help for those policies, those bylaws, to continue to push the government for infrastructure, to continue to push the government to help develop these resources to provide that economic development and boom for our areas.
So can you give us a couple of examples of what individual RMs need to keep in mind if something falls in their lap, resource development? No.
Oh. Everybody, wake everybody up. I think the thing is to realize that these industries, when they come, just to slow down, take your time, phone SARM or make sure your policies are up to date, and just be prepared for that phone call and be prepared to reach out if anything that we can help and provide, and then it can be done structurally and hopefully protect your RMs from any damages to roads or things of that nature, and just give you that protection.
Great. Thank you very much. Now we'll call on Cody Jordison, who is Division 2 Director.
I apologize. I had to make a speech. Otherwise, I'd talk for 10 minutes. Well, it's been 3 years now that I've been a director. For a relatively short period of time, it's been incredible how fast we've been able to shift the dialogue in this province when it comes to healthcare. 3 years ago, we had never heard of a nurse practitioner or a community paramedic. Pharmacists were drug dispensaries and are now places we go for testing, advice, and prescriptions. Nurse practitioners have been an amazing success. I hear more and more from communities that nurse practitioners are what they are looking for, not doctors. That statement 3 years ago would have been impossible to believe. The change has been so successful that the government just last week announced that even more nurse practitioners were being funded. The province this week, just yesterday, unleashed a 30-page document on healthcare in this province. Myself and the SARM staff are going through this, and we're excited to see what it contains, and we will get back to you soon. Some more news. RFPs have been issued for long-term care in Watson and Estevan. 42 communities were visited by the new mobile mammography unit. 73 communities are now eligible for the rural and remote healthcare incentive. That is just the announcement since the last time I spoke to you in the fall. There's a lot happening. I could go on, but that's just what's new. 4 years ago, before I was elected as a director, I got up to the microphone in front of this very crowd, in front of Scott Moe during the Bear Pit session. I thanked him for increasing healthcare funding, but I challenged him, saying that the province was funding an outdated model. Since that time, myself and our SARM team have advocated for rural healthcare reform, and it's pretty obvious that the province has listened and our efforts are working. In closing, thank you for the opportunity to serve you in this province. Thanks to everyone who sits on a healthcare committee, and thank you to those who have worked so hard behind the scenes. Hard work does pay off.
So Cody, if you had advice for, as you did when you were a delegate, you stood up and you spoke about healthcare, what advice would you have for individual RMs and delegates to advocate for health?
Find out what your local needs are and get specific. I think if you go to the table and just ask for more money, I think you'll get a, yeah, we can do that for you. But find something very specific that your community needs and do your homework, make sure you're fully researched, you know what you're talking about, and never give up. We're making changes, we really are.
Great. Now we'll turn to Bob Moulding, who is the Division 1 Director.
Thank you. Division 1 in the southeast Saskatchewan is very rich in its natural resources, including oil, natural gas, coal. Southeast Saskatchewan does sit on the Bakken oil field, which is a very large reserve of oil, and it also has a very large reserve of coal in the Estevan area. The interesting thing about coal is you can turn it into graphite, which is in very high demand and is running out. China is a major producer of graphite, and as you know, graphite has to be 99.9% pure and has to be the appropriate size and shape. Synthetic graphite can be produced, but comes with a very high heat of 3,000 degrees Celsius and 20% carbon, less than 20% carbon. And it's produced in open pit mines, which are bad ground and air polluters. Graphite mines in Tanzania are owned by Tesla, and there is one only in the US. Estevan coal is low on clay and can easily be converted to size and scale and could produce up to 4.2 million tons per year. Estevan, Weyburn, and Torquay exploration having some of the highest grade lithium concentrations in Canada. Lithium production has grown 5 times in the last 5 years, but it didn't grow in Canada because we lack production and battery collection sites. There's a massive demand for our minerals, and some of the problems we encounter are the railroads getting export of minerals and production out of our country. Western countries are concerned about China being a cheap supplier of minerals, and we don't want to be reliant on China, so we need to be developing our own minerals here at home, which are in very high demand.
If I could just ask, if you had some advice for RMs that are affected by this stuff, what would your advice be?
That's a good question. I think forward thinking on the RMs as far as their infrastructure, you know, the effect on roads with the added traffic, bylaws, policies. I think it all needs to be forward thinking and just look into the future and try and get it going.
Great. We'll call on Randy Amick, the Division 6 Director.
Yeah, hi. I'm going to talk about tariffs and how they affect our agricultural commodity prices. It's something that's near and dear to my heart. I'm really sincerely a little worried about what's going to happen with our tariffs and with our CUSMA agreement that's coming up. Now, tariffs are considered a normal mechanism for international trade, and it's been around for hundreds of years. It was designed to protect the commodity price in a country when needed, to benefit the producers of that commodity, but usually only for a short period of time. The problem with tariffs today are they're often weaponized to control the economy of another country. Now, Canada is a huge exporting nation, which is something we should be extremely proud of, but it also leaves us vulnerable when it comes to the misuse of tariffs. It is hard to understand the impacts large tariffs will have on Canadian agriculture without understanding the commodity volumes that Canadian agriculture produces. For example, Canada produces 20 million tons of canola per year, and we export 90% of that volume. It's huge. We export 50% of our total canola production to the U.S., the largest portion of that being canola oil, then canola meal. We also export 38% of our canola production to China, with the largest portion of that being raw canola seed, and the rest is in meal and in canola oil. Roughly 2% of our canola is exported to other countries such as Japan and Mexico. So therefore, with the sheer volumes of canola that we export, it is extremely important that tariffs are kept to acceptable standards. Otherwise, trading partners will stop buying our canola, driving the price down, and our cost of production will outweigh our sale values. The agreement made with China recently was a very welcome relief, as that market is open again with a much smaller 15% tariff. Another crucial market in Western Canada is our beef industry. Canada exports 45% of our beef production. 80% of our beef exports go to the U.S. The other 20% goes to countries such as Japan, Mexico, South Korea. But at the end of the day, 800,000 head of Canadian cattle are exported across the border into the U.S. each year. So an open border, tariff-free market to the U.S. is crucial for our market values. It is important that we talk about the renewal of the CUSMA agreement that has a mandatory review in July of this coming year, 2026. And under the present agreement, there are no tariffs on grain or livestock entering the U.S., but it is extremely important that our North American markets remain tariff-free.
So just a quick question. I think we all feel a little helpless when it comes to tariffs. What role has SARM had in trying to solve the problem?
Well, you know, that it is a very delicate situation that we're going to be dealing with, but there's hope. SARM can and will do what it says in our mandate. We'll take the message from our membership to higher levels of government. SARM has a close working relationship with our provincial government, and that is where we will start. And then, with their help, we need to get the message to the federal government in Ottawa of how critical the North American Free Trade Agreement is to Western Canadian farmers.
Great. So, Bill, you'll solve that tariff problem, will you? Okay, good. Now we'll turn to Sheila Kiesig, who is the a representative of the RM administrators on the SARM board.
Thanks, Mary Lynn. As an active administrator in the best RM there is in Saskatchewan, I'll just add that little plug in. Good governance, I feel good governance in Saskatchewan within RMs is essential because local governments are the backbone of rural life. RMs manage areas that support agriculture, resource industries, transportation networks, and small communities. When governance is strong, transparent, and accountable, it directly improves the quality of life for residents and strengthens the local economy. Effective governance also supports the whole economic growth, not only in your RM, but growth in the province of Saskatchewan. The agriculture, the mining, the energy development depends on reliable infrastructure and fair, consistent regulations. RMs that practice strategic planning and sound financial management are better positioned to attract investment and respond to challenges such as population shifts or changing market conditions. Ultimately, good governance in RMs ensures sustainability, both socially and economically. It protects the interests of current residents while planning responsibly for future generations.
So, Sheila, just a quick question. Is my mic on? Okay. So what are just a couple of examples, or even one example, of what an RM can do around the issue of transparency and accountability?
Thanks, Mary Lynn, for that question. Transparency and accountability, too simple off the top of my head. Minutes and financials readily available to ratepayers and general public. We are now seeing legislation change to ensure that those are online for all residents, all general public to look at. Another one that I just want to touch on is the code of conduct, and just simply put, resolutions are passed around the table. You may not agree with one of those and you voted not in favor, for instance. You still need to be a united front when you leave that council chamber so that the residents of your RM see council as a strong, united group of individuals making decisions for the betterment of you.
Great, thanks. We'll turn now to Darren Steinley, who's the SARM Vice President.
Thank you. The file I want to talk about today is called Community and Transitions. So for those that aren't aware what Community and Transitions is, it's when your rural municipality is forced to take over an urban center because the urban center has become insolvent or no longer can pay the bills or whatever. So I'm sure most of you in the room are familiar with this. This is something that we did not ask for as rurals. We're not excited about it, but it's something we have to deal with. So I kind of feel like it's time we kind of pull our head out of the sand a little bit and start taking a bit of a proactive approach to how we're going to deal with this situation that has been dealt with us. With that in mind, SARM met with SUMA and Government Relations in December. They rented a nice room, and we had a good 8-hour meeting. Laurel and her team did a lot of prep for this. Me, Bill, Brian, Sean went to this meeting. We were well prepared. We had a well thought out plan. We came out of this with the announcement that Minister Schmaltz made for $1.5 million, so that's from $750,000. The upside of that Minister Schmaltz didn't talk about, it now comes off the top of municipal revenue sharing. So now the urbans, SUMA is paying their share of municipal revenue sharing, and this is a big deal. This is a big win for SARM. You can clap, it's okay. It's okay. The other win we had from that meeting is urbans can now take over urbans when the situation works for them. So that wasn't a thing before, and there's maybe some situations where that may work. So that's great. I want to highlight Arma Sturt Valley. Are you in the room? Not Arma Sturt Valley, Arma Sask Landing. Yes, very, very successful amalgamation with the town of Sturt Valley. Great example. If you guys are worried about, go talk to them. My wife's hometown, Kincaid, Pinto Creek took them over. Any of those in here? That's worked as well. So those are a couple great examples of where this can work. There's lots of great funding out there for you to do this if you decide you want to do it. And or I guess if you're forced into it, but go to their website, lots of funding for lots of different stuff. I think the other thing from SARM's perspective is we're going to help educate our members. Our members are asking for education on how to do this, whether they want to or not. So we're going to work on that and see how that looks in the future. So I just think if we can work together with our partners at SUMA, our partners in the Urbans, maybe an unfortunate situation, but we can make this and we can work together.
So, Darren, I heard you characterize the Communities in Transition program as being uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable for people to talk about. Where are we going with it? Are we going to be talking about it more in the future?
Oh, we are going to be talking about it a lot more. So we have averaged 4 towns taking over. So the RMs have taken over an average of 4 the past 10 years. We now have 14 registered or on the books that we know are going to happen this year. And that, as they say, use whatever metaphor you want, tip of the iceberg, thin edge of the wedge, doesn't matter. We will be talking more and more about this in the future, absolutely.
Uncomfortable or not?
Uncomfortable or not, we're in it.
We're now going to turn to Blair Cummins, the Division 5 Director.
I get to talk about infrastructure, and if you were listening for the last 2 hours, just about every speaker that had a chance at the microphone mentioned infrastructure, and rightly so. Infrastructure is a driver of all economic development. Manufacturing, oil and gas, food production, sewer, water, all depend on infrastructure to move products and people. I'm going to give you an example of how it can work when multiple levels of government get involved with the product. It's an example that near and dear to my heart. Many of you are probably familiar with the Cargill facility north in the Arm of Blucher, north of the village or the town of Colvette. That came about because of a partnership with the provincial government at the time and the RM. Of course, it's hundreds of thousands of dollars of revenue to the RM and to the school division in the area. Most of the people that work at that facility live in the city of Saskatoon, so most of their paychecks get spent in there. But that project would never have happened if the provincial government at the time wouldn't have committed to turning the Colvette grid into Highway 316. It needed the infrastructure. Lots of money was spent to put that road in to attract Cargill. We have it on good authority. If that road wouldn't have happened, that plant might have wound up in Alberta. So that's my favorite example of government infrastructure funding that helps municipalities. Approximately 30% of the Canadian GDP comes from rural Canada. And I can't give you a number as what the percentage of federal infrastructure money is spent on rural infrastructure, but at one time it was around 10%. So there's definitely a shortfall in funding to rural Canada, not just Saskatchewan. The funding for federal infrastructure spending must change from a population-based model to an economic benefit model. The federal government and all levels of government have to look at where the biggest bang for your buck is going to come from. That'll be the economic driver, and that will get Saskatchewan the federal infrastructure revenue that it needs and deserves. Saskatchewan has unique challenges. For instance, we have about 120,000 kilometers of municipal and provincial road that must be maintained by a population of 1.3 million people. This is the highest ratio in the country by far. The Ministry of Highways and the RMs have a very difficult responsibility to maintain and improve the road infrastructure in the province with the limited resources that they have. Rural Saskatchewan also has 1,281 bridge structures. This is rural Saskatchewan. On top of that, there's the highway bridges, and 81% of these require either immediate replacement or repair. The RMs simply do not have the resources to maintain this bridge system. There are going to be, and there are some cases already, where RMs are being forced to make very difficult decisions regarding prioritizing which bridges they're going to be able to afford to replace or repair. The infrastructure spending in this country has been inadequate for many years. Necessary pipeline construction to move Western gas and oil to Tidewater, to give one example, has been neglected, resulting in an incredible missed revenue stream that would have been extremely beneficial to this province as well of all of Canada. The feds have treated oil and gas as the enemy instead of treating them as what they really are, an integral part of the solution for the infrastructure funding shortfall and the economic problems this country is facing. to borrow a line, in conclusion, to borrow a line from one of my favorite movies, if you build it, they will come. So thank you. Yeah.
So Blair, just a quick question. Every single RM is dealing with infrastructure that needs to be fixed, not enough money. What's your advice to them?
Well, I guess the problem is prioritizing. I mean, there's limited funds available. We all know that. I don't see any huge amount of money coming anytime quickly to fix all this. So we're going to have to make the hard decisions. I think this is just another case. Forgive me, all the politicians in the room, but I think it's just another case of senior levels of government offloading responsibility to the municipalities. So you got to be prepared for it, that you're going to have funding shortfalls for what you need to fix.
Okay, thank you. And we'll finish off with SARM President Bill Huber.
Thank you very much. Can you all hear me? I think so. I hope so. I'm going to talk a little bit about lobby group efforts. And SARM is a lobby organization. We lobby, different government ministries for funding, whether it's infrastructure or agriculture issues or healthcare, whatever. So we go to Ottawa once a year, sometimes twice a year. And I'm going to start with a trip last year that I was invited to be part of, and that was through the Minister of Government Relations. Minister Schmaltz asked myself and one of our staff members to travel to Ottawa with 7 mayors, city mayors, and a couple SUMA representatives. So I was the only one there speaking on behalf of rural municipalities, on behalf of you folks in this room. And I thought, how am I going to contribute to this in a positive way where it helps the rural municipalities in this province and can also help the cities? So Minister Schmaltz has a real depth of knowledge regarding his past experience in the RCMP and as a reeve of a municipality in the arm of PA. So he started out most of the conversations, whether we were meeting with Minister Gregor Harrison or whoever it was, Minister of Agriculture. And he started out by talking about how we can tie things together and how important it is to have infrastructure spent in the proper places in urban communities. And one of those is to make sure we have skating arenas, hockey rinks, swimming pools, whatever it takes to keep our young kids involved at a very young age. And being a former RCMP member for 14 years, Minister Schmaltz said, we have to, prevent the crime rather than or the individuals rather than cure it. And by getting some young kids, even before they start school, involved in figure skating or hockey in these rinks, and getting them off the streets and off their cell phones at a very young age on social media, where they can actually have a facility where they can go to rather than hang out on a street corner. So when I spoke, I tried to tie a lot of things together with rural and urban. Our rural municipalities depend on our towns and our villages and cities for our parts, our repairs, our machinery dealerships, all the things that are so important to agriculture, grain elevators. But we need an infrastructure network that gets us to those places and those communities, whether it's Regina, Saskatoon, Prince Albert, Moose Jaw, Swift Current, wherever, or even the small little towns that have one terminal 5 miles out of their town. But we need highways, we need bridges, and we need infrastructure spending on our municipal roads so that we can upgrade them to the capacity. We've got transportation planning committees in this province, and we have to have those folks recognized, and that's why we have SARM directors sit on those committees so they can stress the importance of infrastructure and where the roads need to be built and what they serve. We're a valuable exporter of commodities, like a lot of the directors have mentioned today, and we need to make sure that we get a safe, reliable product to market, whether it's to canola to China or whether it's wheat to the U.S. So we need port facilities, we need railways, we need highways, bridges, and the whole thing goes together. And if that ties into urban communities where you go to town to get your groceries or fill your truck up with gas or go to a movie. It's all part of it. So those are very important things. Another thing I got to talk about before I close, I see the clock has gone to 0, but I also looked at the agenda and there's nothing on after us, so I'm going to close your day. But I also want to talk about agriculture again, because that is our lifeblood, and I mentioned that in my speech earlier today. But we need to have more BMRs, business risk management tools, to protect our producers in this province. We need changes to agri-stability. It's a program that's been around for years and years. And this morning in one of the breakout sessions with the Minister of Agriculture, there was a gentleman got up and spoke and said, he called agri-stability last week, and they haven't finished the 2024 files yet. There's still 30% to complete. So when we go to Ottawa next fall, or if we go sooner, we want to make sure, I'm going to make sure, that we meet with the Minister of Agriculture and the Deputy Minister of Agriculture and possibly the Secretary to the Prime Minister, Cody Blyce, and stress to those people how important agriculture is and how important these business risk management tools are. We've had drought for 9 years in some of these rural communities in western and southwestern Saskatchewan that is devastating. I don't know how them people continue on, but they're resilient and they fight back and they continue to exist. So those are some of the things that we're going to lobby for. We'll continue to do it, and we'll do it in a professional manner. The same as we have with strychnine for years. We thought we had a big win last October. That kind of fell apart on us, but we haven't given up. And the province hasn't given up, and the province of Alberta hasn't given up. And we will lead that fight till we get a temporary registration on it for our use. So those are some of the things that we do and some of the things that I will continue to work for as long as I'm president of this great organization. Thank you, everyone, for attending, and thank you for listening to us in this session.
Thank you, everybody.
All right, thank you so much. So that is a wrap on day one. I just want to do a quick reminder to please bring your voting devices tomorrow. And also the Premier and Cabinet members will be here early tomorrow. It's going to be a full house in this room. So I do respectfully ask you to just please be prompt, as we're going to start at 9 a.m. sharp tomorrow morning. Enjoy your evening in Regina. Thank you.